7 years in Panama and then life changed overnight. I had to move back to New York City as a single mom of two. Figuring things out in real time, this channel is changing with me. New York City life, rebuilding, and traveling back to Panama where my family still is. No filter, just real life. Hello guys, welcome back to my canal de YouTube. By the time you guys see this video, it will be a new year. So happy new year 2026 to all my subscribers, my old subscribers, my new subscribers, and those of you who are just stopping by, happy new year. We're going to be talking about living in Panama long term. So as you guys know, I was living in Panama for over a decade. I am back in New York City now, and if you want to know why, check out my other video. It's going to be in the comment section or linked or wherever it is, somewhere on this video, not sure, but it will be probably up here. So these are things that I wish I knew before I left to go to Panama and spend over a decade in Panama, and I'm gonna share this share this information with you. If you hear the noise in the background, we're in New York City, child, and where I am right now, it's very loud, and I don't even have all my equipment, so I can't even set up a good camera and sound and all that. So you're definitely gonna hear the New York City noise. So the first thing that I want to talk about is all the things that I absolutely loved about Panama. Okay, so some of the things that I loved, miss the most about Panama is the weather. I know some people hate it. For natural girlies, it might not work for you because Panama weather is definitely not natural hair friendly. In other words, if you are the type of person that you have natural hair, it would puff up because of the humidity. But I love hot weather. I love warm weather. I love being able to go to the beach. I love the restaurants, the food. I love how groceries were affordable. I love the fact that I can get organic fruits and vegetables and not have to pay these astronomical prices just to eat healthy. I love seafood, and seafood is super cheap in Panama. Unlike here in New York, it's very expensive. Actually, everything's expensive. But I love that I was close to my mom and dad. I love the community that I built with my neighbors, my son's friends and their parents. I love some of the friendships that I developed in Panama and the people that I met in Panama. I love being so close to Panama, and most importantly, I love the fact that I was embedded in my culture. See, I grew up in New York City, right? And although I used to dance Típico and I used to dance Congo, and I was involved in the Panamanian community in New York City, it is nothing like actually living and growing up in the culture and being a part of the culture every single day. It's something that is unexplainable, and I'm so happy that I was able to enjoy it. I was able to live it, and although they do have like events here in New York, it's just not the same. Like the ambience is not the same, the people is not the same. I mean, although it's, you know what I'm trying to say, like it's just a different thing. The way the culture is rep in Panama is something that I'm going to truly miss. The parades, carnival, it's so many things that I miss about Panama, but those are the main things that I absolutely love and miss about Panama. And every day that I wake up and I wake up in the hustle and bustle of New York City, I'm just like, yeah, no, I miss being, you know, the tranquility of it all, because Panama is so slow. Like everything is like calm and everybody just moves at their own pace. Here in New York City, it's so fast, like everything is fast paced, and I'm still kind of getting adjusted to it. So those are the main things that I do miss about Panama. Yeah, I miss my nanny. There's so many things, but those are the main things that I actually love and miss about Panama. I also miss being able to just get up and just go to the pool, okay, when it's not raining, and just being outside all the time. Like there's literally always something to do in Panama, like literally. And I always felt like I always had something to do because the weather was always nice. Other than the rain, the weather was always nice, and I always felt the need to go outside. Now I'm in New York, it's cold outside. I'm not even trying to go outside. I'm not even trying to get dressed, okay? I'm just like, yeah, no. So those are some of the things that I miss and love about Panama. Now, I know you guys don't want to talk about this, but these are the things that are the hardest for me to talk about, okay? Because being in Panama long term, these things will affect you. Now, I know a lot of people are gonna say, well, in the US it's just like that. This is not about comparing apples and oranges right now, okay? This is what people don't think about when they are moving to Panama for the long term. So there's a lot of bureaucracy. So what do I mean by that? Everything in Panama is a long process. Like the simplest things that you would think is just like, okay, we could just do this. No, it's always extra steps that just does not make any sense. So something that could literally take a week would literally take maybe years. So for example, when my daughter was born in Panama. And I spoke about this before, but just for those of you who don't know, this is just an example, okay? One of many examples. Her father has, his name is, I'm not gonna say his name because he does not want to be blasted. Some people like to be private. But for example, his name would be John Thomas the third, for example, okay? And so in Panama, the kids get the mother's and the father's last name. What do you think they did? Take a wild guess, okay? Not the ones that knew this story, okay? The new ones. Take a wild guess what they did. If you guessed they put the third on my daughter's name, you guess correct. So her name would be Gia, her middle name, the father's last name, let's say it was what did I say it was, John or Jonathan or whatever, the third, and then the last name, my last name. And literally when I got the birth certificate, this was literally like a week later, I went down and I told them, hey, you guys made a mistake. I went directly to the woman who actually filled out the birth certificate papers, and I'm like, no, this is wrong. Like, that is not part of his name. Like, because he, in the US, they use the third and juniors, right? Because they use these things to differentiate who, if it's the father, the son, the great-grandfather, that is the reason why that's there. And it's also not applied to females, right? So that does not need to be there. It was a whole big process, right? And they even try to deter me from even pursuing it because nobody wanted to drop the ball. Nobody wanted to be the person to be like, oh, I made a mistake. And so it took me almost 2 years to get that fixed, okay? They even tried to tell me that I would need a lawyer. And when I did speak to a lawyer, they was like, oh, just leave it like that because it's just gonna be too much. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Anyway, I had to do a lot to get that changed, subir y bajar escaleras, and finally I got it done. But this is just one issue, okay? It took almost 2 years for me to get that corrected. Along with that, there's many other things that I feel like it shouldn't take that long to the simple paperwork, like just simple paperwork that needed to be done just took extra long. It's like all these steps, and then you can't speak to this person because this person doesn't know, and they have to ask the supervisor, and everyone's scared to lose their job, okay? So they can't think for themselves for the most part. So if the worker, if they tell them it's either black or white, there's no gray area. And unfortunately in life, nothing is really black and white, right? And so you would explain like certain scenarios and no one could give you an answer. They would have to wait for a supervisor. It was just always like just a lot. And so living in Panama long term, that may become an issue, okay, for a lot of people, especially when you're trying to get certain things done, especially when you're trying to buy houses, you're applying for loans, business, this, that, and the other. It's just a lot. You gotta go fill. Then for another example is, for example, if you go and you need something translated, or you need something apostle, for example, right? They would tell you, okay, go here, fill out this form. After you fill this form, go upstairs to the 5th floor, and then you got to pay $2. Then come back downstairs again and fill out this form, and then you're gonna go to the 6th floor, and then you're gonna pay another $4. And then it was just so much, so many things that just made no sense. And it was just like, okay, this is the way it is, right? And when you're in Rome, you do as Romans do. But if you are someone who has some sort of disability, okay, this may not be beneficial to you, okay? Going up and downstairs and here and there and blah, blah, that may not be beneficial. So, you know, in the long term, when you think about it, certain things, it's just like, is it really worth it? And then another thing is that everything runs super slow, like super slow, like, and I get it, like people in Florida, I thought Florida was bad. No, Florida has nothing on Panama. Like Panama has nothing on Florida. Everybody runs on their own time, and it is what it is. You just have to get used to it. When I first moved there, it used to bother me, but then after a while, like being there so long, you just get accustomed to it, and it's just like, you know what, like that's just the way it is, until they start going into your bank accounts and taking out money that they don't have. No, okay guys, that's a whole nother story. That's a whole nother story for the whole other time. Now another thing is healthcare, right? So I will say this, my daughter was born in Panama, and I had the best prenatal experience in Panama, okay? I had one child in America and one child in Panama, and I will say that my experience giving birth in Panama was top tier. However, that comes with a cost, okay? So this is what I will say. I know you guys know that all my family lives in Panama. Majority of my family lives in Panama, and then it's just me and my sister here in New York. I have cousins and stuff, but for the most part, majority of my mom's side of the family, they live in Panama. And my experience was different because I was paying for private insurance. I had Blue Cross Blue Shield International, yeah. And even with that, you pay your monthly fees, but if you go to the doctor, you have to pay your co-pays. If you gotta go for treatments, you have to pay out of pocket. The insurance really doesn't cover you full, like 100%, even though you're paying out of pocket. Even though you're paying your monthly premiums or whatever, which it was actually a lot cheaper than it was in US. However, it wasn't the same, right? So for example, when I had my daughter, the hospital, the facility that I used was covered. It was supposed to be covered under my insurance, right? And they told me that I would have to pay $2,000, okay? Well, those $2,000, no, first they told me I wouldn't have to pay for anything, but then when I got there, they told me I had to pay $2,000 for this. And then after that, by the time I was discharged, I had to pay about $5,000, okay, to have my child. Now, I know you guys are saying like, oh, well, it's still cheaper than the United States. Yeah, it is cheaper, but who wants to pay $5,000? The average person in Panama does not have $5,000 to just pay, right? And so that's why a lot of people from, you know, locals, they usually go to like government funded hospitals because the cost is less, right? But in Panama, the healthcare system, you can either go public or you can go private, right? And although I will say this, although you know, some people might argue with me, okay, after a while these things start to add up. So if you, like for example, you literally pay for every single thing, okay? They're not giving you anything free in the hospital. Those little gift bags that you think that you're getting for free, you're paying for them, okay? Every single thing, down to the slippers, okay? I've had people tell me, listen, when you go to XYZ hospital, do not take the slippers, don't pay this, don't do this, because you are going to pay for it. And it is what it is. And even if you get sick, like sometimes if you go to the emergency room, you gotta pay that $500 up front before they even see you in the before the doctor even sees you in the ER, okay? And with Blue Cross Blue Shield, that's what it was. Like, you have an emergency room visit, you gotta pay $500. That is your copay, $500, okay? And if you're an older person, forget about it, child. It is gonna be very difficult for you to be able to get private insurance. So what happens is, people just pay out of pocket, okay? And if you are a sickly person, although it's still cheaper than the States, guess what? You do not have any, like, there's no programs or anything that's gonna help you, okay? You pay your money, you get your discount, and that's it. That is the reason why when you get medication, if you have a chronic illness, they allow you to just buy maybe one pill out of 30. If you are supposed to buy a 30 a day supply of medication. Imagine you spending that and then it really comes up to, let's just say like $200, for example. Most people can't afford to pay $200 for their medication and everything else that they have to pay. So guess what? They probably buy one or they probably buy two, and that is the way that they live their lives when it comes to medication. So, you know, it's not like in the States where they have certain programs that you're paying taxes and they have certain programs to help out elderly people. Please do not, don't come for me, because y'all love, there's always that one person. There's always that one person that is just, okay? And even though I said this in my last video, those comments suggest that you guys, okay, it just went. Okay, not all, but some of us lack critical thinking skills. So anyway, after a while with you constantly spending money on doctor visits, ambulance, oh, and by the way, ambulance, you might as well just drive yourself to the hospital, because waiting for an ambulance is almost non-existent. Okay, too long. Okay, so by the time you end up spending money on the doctor visit, medication, if you have to go get an x-ray, this, that, and the third, and this is something that is constant, like you constantly, it starts to add up. It starts to add up. And let me tell you something, not every hospital in Panama is taking your insurance from the VA or wherever. Okay, if you do not have health insurance, and I'm gonna be very honest with you, most expats, they go back to the United States to go see their doctor. Okay, because in the long term, when you have medical issues, this will start to affect your pockets. Okay, whether you like it or not, whether you don't want to believe it or not, it is true. Okay, no matter how much money you have. I know people that they have lots of money and they choose to fly out of Panama to see doctors outside of Panama. They fly to the US, Canada, the UK, wherever for their medical. Don't shoot me, I'm just the messenger. So another thing is about community, right? And so I know we had this conversation before about, you know, certain groups hang out with each other, they only hang around each other. And although it is kind of like weird, but I do understand it, right? I do understand it, because when you move to a whole new country, you don't know anybody, you tend to be drawn to people that you have some type of something in common with, right? And that's why most Americans hang out with other Americans. It is what it is. The British people that move there for whatever international job they have, they usually hang out with each other. There's a Asian community, although in Panama, like, it's a little bit more mixed, because I know that when my son was going to school, his friend group was very diverse. So he had Asian friends, Panamanian friends, black Panamanians. I think he was the only like American kid in that friend group, but for the most part they were very, very mixed, a very diverse group of friends. But if you are moving from the States and or wherever, and you move into Panama, it's going to be very hard for you to adjust in the long run, because you get really, really lonely and you don't know people. Luckily for me, I had my parents, I had my cousins, even though my cousins lived in Cologne, so I didn't hang out with them much. And then I also knew people prior to me moving there, because again, I used to go to Panama as a child, so I still had friends, I still had relatives, I still had people that I would connect with. One of the things that was kind of difficult, though, I will not lie, is that even though I would go to Panama as a child, I still have friends in Panama. I was very into Panamanian culture. I knew my culture. I spoke the language. You're still viewed as an outsider, right? So even though I had all these things going for me, I was still viewed as an outsider. So I had to like build my own community, because for a while, I want to say for like the first 3 years, I kept flying back to New York. I kept flying back to New York because I felt like I was missing something. It wasn't really until when COVID hit and we were on lockdown that I was like, you know what, I'm just not gonna go back. And then also I also came to the realization that a lot of people that I was friends with, once I moved, it kind of was like out of sight, out of mind. I can literally count on one hand the amount of people that came to visit me while I was in Panama, like literally. And even when I would come back, they would still come check for me. The rest of them, we were just really just friends, because I was just here in New York. But yeah, so it will humble you. You will realize that people are really just you may think that people are your friends, but they're really not. And you'll be forced to build your own community, like meet new people. Yeah, for the most part. And then another thing is, a lot of expats, they do not stay in Panama. So for me personally, I didn't make friends with a lot of expats because prior to this whole pilgrimage of black expats moving to Panama, that really wasn't existent. That was non-existent, sorry. There wasn't many black people from America moving to Panama at all. And if they were moving to Panama, they were white Americans, and they were living in Boquete, not in Panama City, right? So this influx of black people moving to Panama is something new, okay? So that was like really non-existent when I first moved to Panama. So what I did realize though, the ones that did come to Panama, the ones that I did meet along the way, they did not last, okay? They did not last more than 5 years, and 5 years is too much, okay? The ones that I met, they lasted maybe a year maybe, and then they left. And so for me, I never wanted to get attached to them because they never stayed. They would always leave. And that was what it is. I met a couple of people, very few, that lived in Panama for a very, very long time. But again, these are all mature folks. They either were married, they had kids, they were, you know, settled into the whole Panama experience even prior to me being there. And so I'm still friends with that one particular person that has guided me it wasn't until after. Like I said, a lot of these relationships I met or I developed was during COVID, when I already had started becoming a little bit more popular on my YouTube channel, and that's how I met more people. But other than that, building a community was super hard. And so those are the things that you really have to think about if you're thinking about being in Panama long term, because you're going to need a community. As we get older, we start to need people. We have to depend on people. You know, you want to be able to call on someone if there's an emergency. You have to be able to develop some type of community. And some like I said, a lot of these people, they don't stay very long. And so that's also something that you may want to think about when deciding to move abroad, particularly Panama. Now, another thing is work and income struggles. So for me, like I said before in my last video, I had a business. My family still has their business. I was working with my family. We had a couple of stores, and at the end decided to shut some of them down because the economy in Panama was not doing what it was supposed to do. And so these are some of the things that you also want to take into consideration, is having some sort of consistent income, because guess what? Things are getting more expensive in Panama. And whether you want to admit it or not, things are getting extremely expensive. Buying a property is also very extremely expensive. And I'm super happy that I was able to get something prior to this whole robust explosion of everyone running to Panama now. But yeah, things are becoming extremely expensive, so you want to make sure that you have some sort of income that's coming in, consistent income. Work, okay? If you are first of all, labor laws in Panama does not, if you are not from Panama, you need to have a work permit to work in Panama legally. Okay, so I know a lot of people say, oh, you could just get a job. Yeah, you can just get a job, but you also need to get a work permit. You can't just work in the country illegally. And guess what? They send people to these businesses to check to see who's working there. They send people from the Ministry of Labor into different establishments to see who has papers and who does not have papers. If you thought ICE was an issue, oh, you have no idea, okay? You have no idea what it's like. I've had the Ministry of Labor run up in my business numerous times to check to see if we had illegal people working in the store, and we did not. And then sometimes people will be so mean and they will call and say, oh, this business has illegal people working there, and they will send people from the Ministry of Labor to check to make sure that you, or to check, or to just to figure around, like my mother would say, to see if you have people illegally working there. And that is a huge fine. So saying that you could just get a job in Panama, oh, well, I'll just work in Panama, yeah, okay. And then even like with the remote work, like people working, that is soon gonna end, okay? If you are in Panama and you're working remote, you're working in Panama and you're working remote from another country, for example, if you have some sort of remote job in the States and you are living in Panama, they catching on to you. So I'm just saying. But some people, they just run their mouth too much on the internet, and people are starting to pick up on what's happening. So if I was you, if you know that this is what you into, you know, you just want to be very careful, because you will soon need permits, and you will have to be paying taxes into that country, allegedly. Now, another thing is the cost of living versus expectations. Everyone's like, oh my God, like Panama's so cheap, because if that's what it was, that's what they're hearing on social media. And believe me, Panama was cheap, right? However, things have gone up since, like super expensive. And so it's not as cheap as you think it is. It's still cheaper. You can get certain things cheaper, like if you shop locally, but 9 out of 10 times, if you have an accent, porque la gente van a saber que tú no eres de allí. Okay, so if you have an accent, and even when you try to speak Spanish, you're gonna have an accent, and they're gonna know that you are a gringo or a gringa, okay, and they're gonna get you. Okay, so just so that you know, what it really is not what you're expecting, is really not what the reality is. And every day things are getting more and more expensive, especially when we're talking about like real estate. Another thing I want to talk about is what has changed me. So I will say that one of the pros, I'm sorry, about Panama and what it has done for me is that I have become such a patient person, which allows me to do my job effectively. I am not going to tell you guys what I do for a living. I'm also not going to tell you guys where I work either, because there are not nice people here on this thing called the internet. However, it has allowed me, I've learned how to be a little bit more patient and how not to let things bother me as much. Even my coworker would say, like, he's like all panicky about things, like, oh my God, we have to do this, and I'm just like, relax, it's not that serious, okay? Let's just, you know, I have become a roll with the punches type of person, and I love that for me. So it has made me very, very patient. It has made me more cultured. Like, I was cultured before, but now I am like super cultured, and I embody who I am and embrace who I am even more, and proud to say that I am a Panamanian American, okay? And so even with my son, like, with him being born in America, he's more Panamanian than me, okay? Mi hijo es más panameño que yo. He is super Panamanian. My son eats Panamanian food. He has his friends. He's good, okay? Now, Gia, on the other hand, even though she was born in Panama, that one right there might be a little struggle, because even when I talk Spanish to her, she's like, I don't like when you talk to me in Spanish. I'm like, why? She's like, I don't like it. So yeah, that's gonna be a little struggle, but for the most part, I don't regret anything about me living in Panama or me moving to Panama. When I did, I don't regret nothing. I don't regret the bad that I've experienced, which it was a lot of bad. All those experiences has made me into the person that I am today, and I have super thick skin. Okay, because one thing about Panama is that Panama will humble you. Panama will humble you. Okay, so all in all, what I feel like, even though I have experienced so much positives about Panama, it was mostly, I think personally, it's because I had a support system there already. I think if I moved to another country, I would not have the same feelings, right? So if I didn't have like this connection already to Panama, I don't think that I would have had such a positive experience, right? Even though there was, we already spoke about this, right? So even though I've had several run-ins, okay, negative run-ins, when I'm talking about family, when I'm talking about maturity, when I'm speaking about just love, being love, giving love, softening myself, I have learned all that from Panama. And it also made me into a bigger hustler. I was a hustler before, I was a go-getter before, but now I go harder, right? Times 15. And I think that being in Panama has given me that spark to be able to do that, because everybody in Panama, they're gonna figure out a way to make money, okay? One way or another, they figure it out, okay? If it means that they're going outside on the sidewalk to sell bottles of water, someone's always gonna sell something. Like, no one's gonna go hungry because they're gonna do what they have to do. And I think being in Panama has taught me that. Like, there is no welfare, there is no government giving you no money other than ham maybe for Christmas. There is no social work, right? It's not. And everyone has to figure it out. And everybody in Panama, they're hustlers. If they selling food, está vendiendo ropa. Si no está vendiendo ropa, está vendiendo comida, fritura, hojalda, this, that, the third. Everyone is hustling. And I think that is what Panama has taught me, because it actually teaches you to be humble. Coming from New York City, you know, very materialistic place, you know, everybody has this, they trying to figure out this, but guess what? People there, some people, they're just trying to survive, okay? And so when you see somebody who makes something out of nothing, that just motivates you. And I think that is what Panama has done for me. So with that being said, what I think, or who I think will thrive in Panama is for people who have a fixed income, Social Security, disability, a retirement check, and someone who already has family there and has a support system there, if we're talking about long term. And when I say long term, that means that you're gonna die there, okay? That is who Panama is for. Now, am I saying that you should not experience it? Absolutely not. That's not what I'm saying. Just know that it is not going to be as easy as you guys think it is. Regardless of what people are presenting and putting out there, 9 out of 10 times these people that you're listening to have not lived in Panama that long, which is crazy that people are giving or selling people courses or just selling things, okay, and giving people wrong advice on what it is like living in Panama, and they haven't even been in Panama for more than 5 years. Like, to me, that's just crazy. So in my opinion, I think that Panama is for people that are retired, people that have a fixed income, and people who want a place to just relax, okay? You don't want to do anything, okay? You're not into the hustle and bustling. You don't want to be mixed up with a whole bunch of things. I think that is what Panama is for. In my next video though, I'm going to talk about race and culture in Panama versus race and culture in the US, because I'm noticing that there's a trend with black people, okay, and everybody thinking that the way that we see race in the US is the same way for every place in the world, and it's not. Anyway guys, with that being said, thank you for tuning into my video, and I look forward to seeing you guys soon. Peace and love.